So previously what you know is there's two sides. At the start of this week we looked at demand side, which when we look at quantity demanded on the right bottom and the price, we know that the relationship between the two is when the price increases, quantity demanded decreases. So they've got when price increases, quantity demanded decreases. When price decreases, quantity demanded increases, okay? So remember we are looking at consumers, their side of the coin. Supply, on the other hand, we're looking at the business side of things, so the capacity for businesses to produce that item. And we know that it's an upward sloping curve. So when we look at quantity supplied versus price, we know that when the price goes up, quantity supplied goes up as well. And when the price goes down, there's not really much of an incentive to produce, so the quantity supplied decreases. And so what we've got here is we've got the business side and the consumer side. Businesses supply and consumers demand. So market equilibrium is all about the following. We're going to put the two together. So we're actually going to put the demand curve and the supply curve, and we're going to merge it so that they're friends in a sense. So when we put them together, what we've got is we can finally have a sense of how much do people want versus how much are businesses willing to supply and able to supply. So let's put a demand curve in, DD for demand, and our supply curve, which is SS. And you can see here we've just put this one plus this one, okay? So all we did was just add in both within the same. But what has changed is obviously we don't do quantity supplied, we say quantity and we do price. And from this we can actually determine some really important things. We can determine the perfect price, the price at which demand and supply equals each other, the market clears, there's no shortages, there's no excess of supply, surpluses, and we can determine the perfect quantity. So we call that PEQE. So where D and S intersect, we can have a sense of the price equilibrium and we can have a sense of the quantity equilibrium. And this is basically where the market clears. It's good because people are buying what is being able to supply, and suppliers are able to supply what is being demanded. So you don't make too much, or you don't make too little, okay? So it's kind of like catering for a party. You don't want to make too much food, you don't want to make too much little food. You want to make the perfect amount, quantity, and in this case as a business, you want to put it at the perfect price where the market clears, the quantity clears. In terms of, when we look at QE, quantity supplied, equals quantity demanded, okay? So at this point, the market clears, there's no excess, so there's no excess, no shortage, all right? So no one's going to be too upset that they're not going to get what they want versus no one is going to be too upset because they supplied too much, all right? So put the two together. The equilibrium price is where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So at this point, boys, what we've got is we've got market equilibrium. So it's perfect. All right, it's a perfect time. Market equilibrium. We've got the price, we've got the best quantity. So the price, like I said back in the day, is a regulator. Because at the price we can know where is, we can change the price and do it to the point where the market clears at QE. Why is this? Okay, so let's go for some bad situations. I'm going to go in black. If we set the price here, boys, at P2, what have we got here? Well, we have demand is at this point. So let's say 2 people would like to buy this product, and 10 can be supplied. So what we have is a surplus. And that's not really good because obviously this business is going to have all this excess stock and it's not going to clear because people only want 2, but they've got 10 to give out or 10 to supply. So at P2, there is a surplus. It's not really that good, okay? Bad idea. However, let's put the price below. The price is actually at P1. And so if we look at the curve, people, suppliers, the black curve, can supply 2, but they demand 11, whatever this is, okay? So now what we've got is we've got a shortage. We're at P1, people want 11 of this item, but the supplier can only produce 2 of this item at this given price. Because remember, the law of supply is that the higher the price is, the more quantity can be supplied, because the business, it wants to make money, it wants to make profits. But when the prices decreases, obviously the quantity supply decreases as well. So when the price goes down from PE to P1, we've got less people supplying because less of incentive. So so even if we look at the supply curve, we've got less people on the line. There's a contraction in supply, and then as the price increases, there is a expansion in demand. And that obviously leads to this point where we've got a shortage, okay? Too many people want it, we don't supply enough, pretty much. So that's the bad cases that you'll see through your PowerPoint. And obviously the really good thing is that if we finally get up to PE, you can see here supply equals demand, there is a clearing of the market. So it's perfect price. So we move on to that. So effects of changes, okay? So I want you to look through the slides, because when we start to shift some of the curves, let's say demand increases, we've got an increase in incomes, okay? D to D1. Can you see that the price equilibrium, there's a new price equilibrium, it's moved up. So it's actually now at P2 when the market clears, because now we've got more people demanding and we've got the suppliers going ahead. At the same time, if you look at it, if supply increases, we'll start to lower the price. So if we supply more and we shift it to the right, we're going to have some problems because it raises the equilibrium quantity, because now suppliers really want to supply more of it. So the price will actually decrease, okay, to try and meet with demand so that we can have some sort of equilibrium, all right? Remember, we want it to be at PE because that's when the market clears and we have market equilibrium, okay? It's not too much made, not too much sold, not too much bought, okay? So if you look at the summary on the last slide, you can track these changes, okay? So there's an increase in demand. So if demand shifts to the right, there is a rise in price and quantity. That changes the P and the Q. So what you want to do is you want to track how does P change, how does Q change, okay? When there is increase in demand versus supply. So when we have a decrease in demand, what we can see is we have a fall in price, and because of that we've got a fall in quantity. However, if we want to increase our supply, so maybe we've got more inputs, we actually can lower the price and we can increase the quantity sold, because now it's reaching demand. Vice versa, if we want to decrease in supply, perhaps falling incomes, falling business incomes will have a rise in price to keep up with it, and quantity will actually go down. So you can see at any point, whether it's increase or decrease in supply and demand, it will change P, the price, and it will change Q. And what it tends to change ultimately is the market equilibrium, which is the price at which quantity supplied equals quantity demanded.